Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Hola Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Korean Media Center. Today, we're starting our day with the briefing dedicated to the operations of the pyrotechnical units of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. We are going to discuss the condition dynamics, technologies of demining, and the specifics of the work during the winter period. Joining us in the studio is Serhii, Reva, head of the Department for Organizational Work on Humanitarian Demining in the Ukraine State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Good morning, Mr. Serhii. Good morning. Let's start with the contamination statistics. We know that those are incredible numbers. The scale is unprecedented worldwide. So what is the dynamics? What can we assert today? What is the statistics specifically in the regions close to the front lines and the regions that are more remote? Well, yeah, in fact, there's a lot of territory for the time being that can be potentially contaminated with unexploded ordnance. For the time being, we're documenting about 23% of our country's territory, 123,000 square kilometers, including territories which are currently deoccupied, territories that are temporarily occupied, the forward edge of the battle area, the areas close to the front line, and it's worth mentioning that not all of the territories are currently available for demining. About 30,000 square kilometers are available, and we are working actively on those territories in coordination with the defense forces, in coordination with international organizations, both government and non-government demining operators, to clear the area of unexploded ordnance. Talking about the casualties caused by unexploded ordnance, what is the statistics? Are people becoming more cautious now that they understand better the threat posed by such devices? Well, unfortunately, the statistics is growing day to day. For the time being, about, I think, 957 incidents were caused by unexploded ordnance within the last year. No, that's from the beginning of the full-scale invasion. And the largest number of cases was documented in Kharkiv region, about half of them, because Kharkiv region is probably the region that has the biggest territory contaminated with unexploded ordnance. Then comes Sumy, and then comes Kherson region. In Kharkiv region, 427 cases were documented. Yeah, about a half, just like I said. Well, we understand that almost daily the aggressor keeps inflicting strikes on different territories of our country. Every day there are shahid strikes, missile strikes. Talking about the demining specifics in the aftermath of the strikes, what is the specifics of operations specifically after the shellings, after the missile and drone strikes? Well, after such strikes, the residues, the debris of the missiles and drones may pose a threat because such residues may contain some hazardous fuel and unexploded warheads, and we urge everybody to be as cautious as possible after such strikes. We respond to such strikes in a prompt manner, and we try to mitigate all of the consequences within the day when it comes to both search and rescue operations and search and identification of the debris and residues left of the drones and missiles. We informed the population about the mine threat, and I would like to mention that since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we've implemented measures, awareness-raising measures that covered almost 2 million people. Talking about the procedures of operation right after the strikes. We understand that sometimes it happens that there are hundreds of shahids, hundreds of missiles flying our way, and the places where they are downed, I mean, the scale of the territory is incredible. So talking about your procedures, how much time do you usually need to search the territory and to prevent any collateral damage to the civilian population, damage posed by all those debris flying all over the country? Well, it all depends on the situation, on the scale of the strike, on the density of contamination, but we try and we respond promptly after the security situation allows us to do so. The search and rescue units are immediately engaged, and they proceed to work according to the instructions that we have. We try to increase our capabilities to be able to mitigate the consequences of the strikes promptly. So again, depending on the situation, we can calculate the timing. Talking about the most hazardous, I understand this probably is going to be a different story, specifically when we talk about the towns and settlements close to the front line, and when we talk about others that are more remote. But still, what is the most hazardous thing? What poses the biggest threat compared to the others? Well, talking about unexploded ordnance, all of the mines, all of the rounds, all of the shells are hazardous, but among them I would like to highlight the trap mines, anti-infantry mines, those that work remotely, those that respond to seismic moves such as PFM or petal mine. It's plastic, it's small size, it's difficult to see, difficult to identify, but it has sufficient amount of explosive substance, 48 grams, and if a person steps over it, it may blow away a limb. So talking about demining during the winter period, we understand that we're entering the winter season. So what are the challenges? What are the complications that it brings? Well, definitely winter brings its specifics to demining operations. Talking about the scheduled works that we fulfill on a continuous basis starting from spring. During winter times, such works are slowing down usually because the ground freezes. That prevents our units and mine action operators to excavate the unexploded ordnance that they identify. On top of that, there is a snow cover that prevents us from thorough observation and inspection of this that land plot, but we respond to any identified unexploded ordnance. It remains our priority. It remains our priority before and after the strikes, after the challenge, and we respond in a prompt manner. We understand that technologies are developing quite quickly, including the demining technologies. Frequently, we were able to see some cutting-edge technologies that you use. Some of them are well tested and proved to be efficient. They proved to improve the efficiency and safety of State Emergency Service of Ukraine operations. What would you mention as the devices that proved themselves the best? Well, definitely the war poses new challenges, new tasks for us to improve the technologies that are already existing, to modernize the existing practices, and we try to keep the pace we develop. And currently there are technologies that really proved their efficiency and that are currently widely used. I would say mechanized demining that is already implemented and that is actively used. There are developing technologies such as AI-powered UAVs that can identify unexploded ordnance remotely using AI. That's a technology that is currently developing in our service. We have UAV that are AI powered. We test them, we try to implement them into practice, and we try to find the methods, the ways to use them in the most efficient manner. And of course, there are technologies that are only just being developed at the level of ideas. That's why we cooperate actively with the civil organizations, with research and development institutions, so that we can teach them something, we can advise them something, so they invent some new methodology, new type of equipment for us to be able to demine the territories as efficient as possible. Well, unfortunately, we know that it's not only us who's developing, the aggressor is developing too. For example, we're seeing the latest reports that they're launching Shahid drones with cluster munitions. Correct me if I worded it wrong. Maybe there are some other new developments that the aggressor is using to kill our citizens. So what is the threat and what are the challenges that you see there? Well, unfortunately, aggressor also keeps developing their technologies. This year we started identifying after the drone strikes, after the Shahed drone strikes, we started finding cluster munition elements that frequently fail to trigger after they are dropped by Shaheeds, but they are triggered on the ground and they get triggered in quite unpredictable ways without any algorithms when it comes to time frame. So we urge everybody to be as careful as possible. There were a number of publications in the media with the pictures of those cluster munitions, and we want to urge every citizen of our country, if you identify anything that looks remotely like that cluster munition, please adhere to the rules that we keep promulgating. Don't touch it, call 101 and wait until the specialists arrive to defuse those unexploded pieces of ordnance. So do we understand it correctly that even after the strike is over, that cluster munition, it may explode anytime and people shouldn't even approach it, let alone touching it? Yes, you're absolutely right. The behavior of such munition is unpredictable. It may get triggered anytime. That's why we adhere to the procedure. We fence the location, we wait for some time so that then we could use some robotic equipment and other special equipment to defuse that cluster munition. Yeah, let's talk about this safe distance for our spectators so everybody understands how far you should stay from such munition. I would advise not approach closer than 100 meters to such type of munition because the radius of fragments maybe even over 100 meters. Well, thank you. What are the other advice now that the shells become more and more frequent, the strikes become more and more frequent? Well, I would say that we observe our key rule: don't touch, don't approach, call 101. So once again, I'm urging everybody, just in case you see something that looks like unexploded ordnance, immediately call 101, call national police so the experts can come and mitigate the threat. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining our broadcast. Thank you for all of the information. Let me remind you, joining us was Serhii Reva, head of the Department for Organizational Work on Humanitarian Demining at the Ukraine State Emergency Service. Thank you, sir. And we also want to thank our security and defense forces, thanks to whom we can gather and discuss these important issues. Thank you once again. See you at the following broadcast. Join us at 1100.